Hi guys, welcome back to the Frappe Podcast. I'm your host Foram and we're here today with Safwan. Safwan is an engineer at Frappe and he owns the entirety of Frappe Drive, which he's been working on for around a year, I think now.
For a year.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you here. I think you're exploring new roles at Frappe also right now. And the most funny thing is that Safwan's just 18 and that always becomes the most interesting thing in the room when he's around.
Unfortunately, I wish it was about my work, but it is about my age.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm fairly nervous. I don't do well responding to questions under, a camera setup and the pressure element. But let's see. I think it'll be fun.
I promise you in 10 minutes the cameras will stop existing.
Okay,
you won't even notice them. I wanted to start with a very, baseline question. Like I said, like you're 18, you have an acceptance to Oxford, I think, which is going to come up. So might as well get it out of the way. You've been offered a new, traineeship to become a leader at Frappe. And there is so much going on right now. You've been involved in open source, handling your own product. So what does your life look like right now and how do you feel about it?
On paper, like if I draft a resume, it somehow feels like a lot of things are going very well, and it has. But for me, the most incredible thing to me is the rise. So most people don't know the backstory, right? Most people don't understand where I've been coming from. So, but just 2 or 3 years ago, around this time, I was really struggling. I was in a fairly bad place, and the future seemed very bleak, right? And the fact that just 3 years later, the rise has been stupendous. And I don't know how much of this can be attributed to myself. A lot of it is luck. A lot of it is Frappe. A lot of different factors, I think. I mostly just feel grateful, which is an interesting feeling because I don't like it very much. What are you grateful for? What are you grateful towards? But yeah, I'm feeling slightly overwhelmed. But I'm mostly feeling happy. The fact that, things have worked out despite a lot of people, including myself, at times thinking that they would not.
But don't you feel like you've worked towards these things in some or the other way, whether it's getting that opportunity or ignoring what the stereotype is?
I think that is the biggest thing, right? Like somehow I've been, again, this is not completely myself, but I've rejected the idea of a conventional path, right? And I think it's not as difficult as it sounds. Once you start doing it, it becomes more natural and it becomes the only way to live. After that, like going back and doing normal things, not necessarily normal things, but doing normal things for the sake of being normal, that somehow feels like, enslavement in some ways. So there's a feeling of liberation that you have when you're just doing your own thing without really thinking about what other people are saying, what they're thinking, what your future might look like. So that feeling of liberation has become central to my life now. And yeah, I think that is what has really determined most of these outcomes. At least that's what has sparked them. That's what started them. The outcomes themselves, of course, had a lot more factors involved, including to some extent my hard work. But the TLDR is that I think hard work is... The meritocracy is not fully correct, right? Like we sell the idea that once you work hard, once you do your own thing, you're going to become successful, but that's not true always. There is a huge luck element to it. There's a privilege element. There are a lot of other things going on. So I'm just happy that I am where I am. I know that I didn't fully deserve it, but I'm grateful that I am here.
It's very interesting, and like eventually you're going to have to walk me through that thought process because you're saying that there's no way to live an unconventional life once you realize that, that path is also available.
Mm-hmm.
But there is so much pressure from the world, like just in general, all parts of the world, to keep us on that path that they think is right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you shouldn't give in to pressure, but there's so much, again, privilege and luck that plays into it. So, yeah, there must be some process that you might have gone through to understand.
So the world offers this process, right? Whatever it is, maybe IIT engineering, for me, that's what it was. That is a stereotype in Indian households, right? Like do IIT, get an engineering degree, go to a great, go to a good paying job and then live your life. But you see people around you living their life and it does not feel satisfying. It does not feel good, right? So I think I realized fairly early on that this idea that somehow if you follow the checklist that society provides, you will be fine. That idea is somewhat of a lie. So everyone seems to be failing. Everyone seems to be figuring it out. So you may as well be doing it on your own terms, right? Because then at least I'm having fun. So I don't know how things will go for me. So luckily over the past 2 or 3 years, things have been going well. But next year might be terrible for me, right? But I don't really mind because I'm having fun. I'm growing. I think I'm improving as a person, in many ways, right? As a programmer, as whatever I'm doing today. And that aspect, that journey where you're focusing on becoming better, you're focusing on having fun, you're focusing on living life well today, that is more important to me than some idea of success that society might or might not guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, people can argue that what you're going through right now is a very cool version of success.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't look at it that way.
That is a coincidence. That is the weird part, right? Somehow, even though I've claimed that I walked the unconventional path or something, by very conventional standards, they seem to be doing pretty well. But that, I know it sounds false when you say it's a coincidence. It's not completely a coincidence, but that is not what I work towards. Like I'd be fine at some level even if things didn't work out because this was the path I walked and I walked for it. I mean, I chose it because I wanted to be free. I wanted to be doing my own thing. I wanted to be exploring different things. I wanted to be around cool people who do, intellectual people who are trying to push the system, who don't just give in to the norm. And so I'm mostly working towards a vision of how my life should be in the day to day, not really some idea of success.
That's fair.
So even Oxford, for example, like to me, it's not the prestige. I mean, of course, prestige just play a big part into the fact that the brand value, whatever, right? Like there's a aura value when you go and tell people you get into Oxford, but that is not the real thing. The thing for me is sitting amongst people at Oxford, the intellectual crowd, marinating amongst them, right? Those conversations you'll have, those late night discussions. So that is what really I'm looking for, like a lifestyle, not the idea of success itself.
Nobody who, like, people think that you go abroad to study because, oh, you're going to go study at a good
Exactly,
college.
job, right.
There
That is
are
not
good
the
enough
point.
colleges
Exactly,
here.
right.
But the people you're going to be around is kind of incredible.
Yeah, exactly, in the
Yeah.
culture difference.
And
things
that's
like
why I
that,
was
right?
really curious about the fact that now you have kind of a choice. Like, you're getting offered bigger and bigger roles here at Frappe versus like you still have your bachelor's degree to finish.
Yeah, exactly.
How does that feel, like having to, is it a choice? Is it a tough, is it a thought, at least consideration?
It is definitely a tough choice, I feel like. And like this thing kind of sprung upon me 2 weeks ago, so I haven't decided yet. And I think it'll take a couple more months of thought to think about what I want to do, what both opportunities offer, and which I choose. But right now, I'm just grateful that I have two such good opportunities. I was speaking to my sister recently, and all paths lead to heaven. And that is not true for most people my age. That is not true for most people in general, right? Everywhere I go, I can't go wrong now. Somehow, I mean, that's not true. But I feel very privileged or happy. Not even privileged. I just feel happy to be here in such a position where I have such an excellent choice between two very good options. It is a difficult choice, though, and we'll have to see how the upcoming weeks and months play out before making that decision.
Yeah, I mean, with determination, you're always going to win. No matter what you choose, right? Even if the wrong choice, you're going to be like, I have to make this work now.
But things could still fail. That's the thing, right? And that is one thing, actually, that's something worth mentioning. So somehow, luckily, I've won in many conventional aspects. And I don't want to be addicted. I don't want to grow used to that feeling of victory, right? Because this is not what I was working for. I was not working towards people respecting me or people, saying these things or, being in this podcast. That's not the point. And that should not be the point. Or salary. Like, salaries at Frappe are pretty high. I don't want to be normalized to that, and I don't want to expect that or work towards that. I want to continue working towards what I've worked towards so far, which is the idea of freedom, the idea of living an interesting life. Even if that comes at many costs, right? Social respects, just maybe money itself. And we'll probably talk about this a little more later on, but I don't want to remain in tech, even though it's probably a very good career option. Because that's not it. Like, life does not, you don't get satisfaction in life by doing those things. And I want to remember that going forward.
Yeah. Is there anything that you felt like you've missed out on in the past few years of working, like before you finish high school?
I probably have, but it doesn't really play into my mindset that much because I feel like I've had an interesting high school experience too. So I didn't fully drop out of high school, right? I actually joined the school. I actually started off with homeschooling in 9th grade because of COVID. And then I joined one school and then I shifted to another school and then I dropped out and did my own thing. And I was still schooling though, technically. And then I joined Frappe. So just purely from an academic point of view and even from other point of views like socially and all, I feel like I've had a very interesting 4 years in many ways, so I don't feel like I missed out on things. Ultimately, it's all about that. It's about living, it's about having good stories, and I feel like I have a good collection of stories from these 4 years. So maybe I haven't done everything in the conventional checklist of high school, but that doesn't really bother me because I feel like I've had a good experience on my own terms.
Yeah, that's good because like it bothered me for a bit. Like, I also didn't have the most conventional college experience, and now everybody around me is just like chilling and having fun. And I was like, work. And it bothered me for a bit, but now I also agree with what you're saying that it does not matter that much.
That perspective is actually valid in the sense that people are, so it's a privilege to be able to just study or just have fun, right? That is a privilege we lose after joining the working place. Somehow things become more serious. And I miss that, but I don't miss the actual checklist of experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't want to like run into the whole stereotype of it should go like this, like this, like this, because like at that way, we would never get anywhere.
Exactly.
So yeah, we can do things on our own terms, but we'd rather have like, I don't know, the sense of normalcy, the stereotype of normalcy that comes into play sometimes gives a little bit of FOMO.
That is true. There's that feeling of you're missing out even if you're not actually missing out on things. And there's also that weird loneliness of being the only person doing something, right? Because when your peers or your friends who you grew up with, they're all doing something, and you're doing something completely different. That does grate on you quite a bit. So I understand where you're coming from, and I do feel that. But I think that feeling has just become. I don't think there's a solution to it. It's just become less intense as over the years.
Yeah, the feeling of being in a room of people who are, much smarter than you and much more qualified. Age does not play into it clearly.
Definitely, experience does.
Yeah,
though.
experience does. And you getting to learn from them is, I think, a very much more intense emotion than that.
Definitely.
So I think it makes up for it in its own way.
There's a trade-off for sure, but I'd still choose this path if it came to it again.
Makes sense. Since we're already on the topic of talking about how stereotypical systems work, especially in a country where kids are just pressurized
Yeah,
to
India has a
learn and
problem.
study and complete their degree. Like there is no consideration in a average household that you'll take a break here or you won't finish your bachelor's or whatever it is. And since we're speaking of these systems, I want to know, like, what other systems have you gone through in the past few years, because you've risen so quickly, that has made you see a difference?
I think that has actually been one of the most interesting parts of my high school, because I've been through my high school experience, because I've been through not just like academically, I've been through CBSE, IGCSE and all, but at the end of the day, all of those are schools and there's not really a huge difference there. But in terms of the diversity of talent and how people approach life, I think I've seen a lot of different, I've been in a lot of different communities, that approach these questions differently. So I've been in like very schools where, very low class. I mean, you get what I'm speaking about, very unintellectual schools. I've been in some of the most prestigious math camps in the world. I've been at Frappe. I've worked in other companies too, where more normal companies compared to Frappe. And I don't know, I feel like I don't want to. There's no one right solution. I think that is the biggest takeaway from all of this. Everyone seems to be figuring it out. Everyone has, and everything is also a trade-off, right? When you have, for example, when you don't really care much about success in the conventional sense, you also have a very fulfilling life in some ways, because you're just chilling, right? Like you said. So there's always that trade-off, and you'll have to think about what you want, not from life broadly maybe, but what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. Because so where I'm coming from is I've tried all of these different ways of living, if you will. I didn't wake up one day and then decide to go down this path. It was more like going here and there, and I feel like I didn't really plan anything. It more just worked out like this. And I feel like any path I'd gone down, it would have still been fine. It would have been maybe fine in a different way. But so long as you're doing unconventional things and kind of doing your own thing, I think things will be okay.
So that way, then your definition of a happy life and a successful life is so much more meta than like material goals.
Exactly.
Like, oh, this much salary or this kind of role or this whatever. And that brings me to the question, then how do you get into programming? Like, what are the heres and theres that you visited to get into programming? Because since you've moved around so much, it's it can be unnerving to move around, and it can be confusing, because most people are just figuring out what subjects they like. So
I am still figuring out what subjects I like, for what it's worth. But okay, there were, I think, multiple separate questions. I'll answer the first one, which was programming, I think. Programming started very incidentally. I think it was 8th grade and we had online classes going on, and online classes were boring. So I just started learning coding online. There was this book called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, which and I think I used those to kind of to automate assignments. You get it right. And I remember studying web development and then hacking Google Classroom. I think that was the software. You kind of hack Google Classroom to submit things even without submitting them. It was basically just academic, from a very academic point of view. And then that kind of expanded to make, I kind of expanded from that to make more fun scripts, if you will. So at one point, my mom was wondering how to deal with the difficulty, if you will, of choosing different food items to prepare every day, right? So I made the script which took an Excel sheet of all the different foods we make at home, and then it'll kind of suggest to her every day. Like, it'll give her a weekly plan of what food items she can make. So yeah, I'd really start off like that, just scripts that make life easier and make items slightly less boring. And it grew very rapidly. I was, again, talking about this to a friend recently. And just in 2022, I didn't even know web programming, which is what I do all the time from 24, right? So in 2 years, somehow, things have changed quite a bit. It started off with some random internship at this NGO in Madurai. And they were using Frappe, incidentally. They wanted me to implement a CRM for them. And I tried out ERP Next, and it was pretty bad. And I wrote a huge blog post ranting about how bad it was in many terms, right, in quality, UI, UX. And this was the thing I used to do back then. Pretty much every software I use, I'd write like a review, like a long blog post review of it online. So this was normal for me back then. And what I used to do also was, after writing these posts, I'd send them to the team, because sometimes, feedback is useful. And I just sent it to the team like usual. And the surprising part was they responded. Most of the time people just ignore, right? But these people responded, and even more surprisingly, they were pretty positive about it. I think they were like, thank you, and they were like, we're looking through these issues, we'll fix them. And that was my first exposure to Frappe, and that was very unconventional in some ways, because people don't take criticism very well. In previous cases, I'd been like shot down, if you will, for criticizing. They'll be like, oh, whatever. And so there's also this aspect of, when you're young, people take your criticism less seriously, and they try to dismiss you as a child or whatever, right? So this was very unusual, and this was back in like 2022, I believe. And that's how it started. And then this was all in 9th grade during COVID. And when normal school started, I kind of went back into the system. I wasn't doing anything very unconventional. I was still programming on the side, having fun. I was trying to build a product or two. Didn't really work out. And then I had to come to Mumbai for something else. I think, there was this award ceremony. Yeah, it's somehow crazy to think about how much luck plays into this. There was this award ceremony. I think I was a country topper in 10th grade or something like that. And I had to come to Mumbai for that. And I was staying here for a week. So I was wondering what to do in that week, because I'd be bored, right? And I remember randomly that Frappe was here. So I wondered if I could have like a week-long internship with them or something like that. So that's how all of this started. And I mailed the team asking them about, like, I tell them, I give them some context, right? I'm coming to Mumbai for a week in January, and whether I could contribute or come to the office or something like that. Surprisingly, again, they responded. I'd also applied to a lot of companies for general internships, and most companies just don't respond. They responded some, nice template. Surprisingly, they responded asking when Cyril was the one who responded, and she was like, when can we have an interview? And I was like, okay, wow, I was not expecting this. And we have an interview. It was very chill, like most things in Frappe. We had a first round, and then we had a second round, and the third round with Rishabh. And Rishabh was talking about how, his own high school experience was also fairly unconventional, in that he also started programming when he was 17. I think he was building some software for his uncle or something like that. And back then, like I said, I really knew nothing about Frappe. I read maybe one or two blog posts, and it was very luck based. It was just very coincidental and very serendipitous that I came to Frappe. Of course, I'm not sure why they considered even a random application by a high schooler. We'll probably have to ask them that. But yeah, that's how it started. And somehow from there, it just snowballed to where we are today. And it's not been a smooth journey at all. People think that it has, but it's not. But yeah, none of this was planned. None of this was known. Like, I didn't know that this is where I would be 2 years ago. And I don't know where I'll be 1 year down the line.
It's interesting, like, people think that, Frappe has so many advantages, but the path is not smooth at all. Nothing is laid out for you. You have to fight, like, so much, to know where you want to go, see where you want to go. And so it makes sense, like, people thinking that it's easy, but it's not. But I also want to know that, so not knowing where you were 2 years ago versus where you're going to be next year, isn't that a little bit scary for you?
It is scary in some sense, but now I've grown used to it, I think. It's also kind of exciting, right? The feeling of having an unplanned life and the feeling of living in the moment. I know that's a very cliche statement, but the fact that I don't know what's going to happen, not even 1 year down the line, I don't know what's going to happen 6 months down the line, right? I could be at I don't know what university I'm going to be. I don't know what I'm going to be studying. I don't know if I'm going to be here. And it used to annoy me. It used to scare me. But now somehow it's just become like something I look forward to. It's one more aura factor, if you will. It feels grand internally. It feels like I'm living out an adventure, which I am in some ways. So yeah, I find it fun now.
Yeah, you have one life. Why not live it
Exactly,
in an adventure? Yeah, and another part of your previous answer I wanted to talk about is the fact that you said that people don't take criticism seriously, anything seriously when you're youngest in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I see no way, where that hasn't played out in people who have seen like rise early. So, what has been your go-to strategy to fix that? Or
so I don't think I have a singular strategy. One thing is, unfortunately, when you're part of any minority, you have to kind of compensate for it, if that makes sense, right? Like, if you're part of some minority, like if you're a woman, for example, you have to act less emotional, otherwise people will downplay you for being emotional. If you're a child, similar thing, right? So something that may be considered normal, if someone else did it, that would be considered as a black mark on you. So you have to be a lot more careful in the sense that you can't scream out random things. You can't just sound immature, if that makes sense, right? So that is one part of it. You have to weirdly kind of overcompensate and make sure that you have to act more mature than you even would have to in normal circumstances. But at the end of the day, I feel like this soft discrimination, if you will. It's not too scary. It's not too problematic because most of the time people. This is more of a first impression thing, right? Like the first time people meet you, they might not take you seriously, but over the time, if you're good, if you're willing to put in the work, people eventually do see that. I don't think it really lasts, so it's never bothered me that much. It's never really affected me.
Interesting. It always lasts for, like, it has lasted for me.
Okay.
Like, I was the youngest, I was a woman. Nobody gave a single shit about, like, what I had to say.
Okay.
I've been sitting in a room where people are talking to each other and not even looking at me.
Oh. So I think this also might be a thing in programming. I feel like CS as an industry is a lot more liberal. It might be different, I'm assuming, in marketing and more businessy roles like that. Yeah.
Maybe, but like the stereotype that Indian people have about like young people and any kind of minority, like you said, doesn't go away no matter what kind of industry it is.
And it's hard to solve for it too. I think you just have to deal with it and not put too much thought into it. You just do your own thing, and hopefully things work out, right?
Yeah.
And they have worked out for us. So.
Yeah, they have worked out for us. Another thing is like your coming to ERP Next and Frappe story. Were you even expecting a response from them?
Nope.
Like, yeah.
So like I said, I did this all the time. I've written blog posts ranting about journal apps. I've written blog posts ranting about, not ranting, praising, I think, search engines. And I send it to the team, and most of the time, it's like some short response, right? You don't expect a good response. That was my first interaction with Frappe. But even later on, when I applied for an internship, it was more of a unserious thing. And it was more in the sense that let's just try it out because why not? I feel like that's how I approach a lot of things in life. It's like, let's just try it out. I don't really expect it to work, but somehow it works, and I'm like, oh shit, what am I doing here?
Yeah, but I mean, like you're increasing the probability of something working out,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
But the thing is, when it does work out, it's pretty scary because you didn't actually think that it would work out. You're just playing around, right? That is something I still do, I think. A lot of the times I just stumble into something for the fun of it, and then when it becomes serious, I start wondering what I'm doing there. But I also think that's useful. You don't want to be safe. You don't want to be conservative. You want to play around. You want to experiment and fall down. That's fine. But that's how you also grow, right? I feel like if I hadn't done any of these things, or if I didn't randomly mail people, if I didn't write blog posts ranting about software, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'd just be another normal student in school, in college, right? So I want to preserve that sense of stupidity, if you will.
No, it's a very useful skill. Yeah. I was just going to say, like, most people, I don't have it. Like, I would never be like, just, do it. What's the worst that can happen? That's not the mindset I usually operate with. And I'm trying to, like, get into a place where I should change that, because I recently saw somewhere or read somewhere that the biggest difference that's keeping you from being where the most successful people are is actually doing it.
Okay.
Like, actually just getting that action done. No matter how you do it, as long as it's above 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even when, like, for example, when I joined Frappe as a company, or even with this whole new role thing going on, I don't really think about whether I can do it before starting it. It's more about whether I want to do it. And if I want to do it, I just kind of assume that things will work out, even if they don't, even if they're very unstable, and even if they're very rocky. And in many cases, I'm totally unqualified to do things, right? But I don't know if this is a flaw. I think it's something good, but it also could be perceived as a flaw because I don't plan things. I just jump into things head first and then hope things work out. And they mostly have. But I'm assuming at some point in life, I might fuck something up and things go bad. But so far, it seems to be working.
Yeah, so far, so many things have gone well. Like, it's fine if you hit a rock sometimes.
Exactly. And I think so many things in life have failed horribly after putting so much effort. Like, I can think of at least 3 or 4 things over the past year where I'd put years of effort into things, like genuinely tried so hard. Done a lot of conventionally. I think people would call me crazy if I told these stories to them. And they failed. And it was pretty sad, right? Because you put your heart into things and they fail, but it's fine. And when things do work out, you get so many advantages, right? You only need one thing to work out. It's like that whole 20-80 rule thing. You don't need everything to work out. So long as some things work out, you will be doing amazing, not be doing fine.
Yeah, like, let's take the context of Frappe Drive itself. Like, how do you get into owning a whole product at Frappe?
Again, very random. That is my life. I think everything is very dropping from the sky and I grab it. So I think I joined in November. Yeah, I joined in late November. And at that time, the person who was owning Frappe Drive, he was leaving the company. So Frappe Drive was vacant. And I'd always been interested in these 2 products, Drive and Mail. And the fact that it was vacant, so I asked Faris if I could take it up. And he's like, sure. I think at Frappe, people also don't try to restrict you. They kind of tell you do your own thing and figure it out, right? And that's how it started. But obviously, I'm not even qualified. Like, back then, I had like 0 programming experience, much less product ownership experience or UI experience. I had none of these things. So I stumbled into things without a plan, without knowing how it'll go. And it went pretty badly, if I was being frank, for the first couple of months. And in some ways, I'm still struggling. But it's fine because, there was this product called Infilib that I was working on right before I joined the company, and a couple months ago I was looking at that GitHub repo, and it's terrible. It's so bad, and the fact that I've grown so much when I compare the products I'm building today with the products I built right before I joined the company, the improvement is insane, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't do these things, right? If I played it safe, if I I think another option would have been to join Frappe framework, and I'm pretty sure I'd have enjoyed that work because I think I'm an okay engineer, right? Like whatever, I have like a couple years of pure programming experience for fun or whatever. So I think I'd have been good in framework. I'd have had fun. I'd have probably done well, but I wouldn't have grown this much. It would have been much easier. It would have been smoother. But at the end of the day, I'd be a framework engineer. I wouldn't have been anything more. Shit, that sounds like I'm dissing framework engineers. Framework is amazing.
No, it's
But
not. It is.
my point is, I would have been a much better engineer than I am today. But with Drive, I've grown in so many different ways. My communication skills have become better. My planning, my UI has become significantly better. And I want to maintain that. That's what I'm telling you, right? I want to maintain that sense of insanity where you just jump into things without thinking things through, and then hopefully things work out. You just work so hard that they work out. Even if there's pain, even if there's scars, it's worth it for the end result.
Yeah, owning a product is starting your own company.
Exactly,
Like
right.
you do everything from, telling people to use it, getting people to use it, to making sure it has the coolest features. Like I've seen how much Drive has grown. Like I know, like on that channel that we have, how many people say,
Exactly.
we should add this, we should add this, and you add it
Right,
like
right.
very promptly, might I add, which is cool. Like I wanted tabs, and you were like, oh, here they are. It didn't even take a month, I think. But the point is that, like, have you ever felt that now that you're maybe leaving Drive behind, like, are you okay with that?
I am pretty sad about it because, well, I don't know how to phrase it so I'm sad about leaving Drive, but that's kind of shadowed by by what I'm going to be doing next. That somehow feels like a very exciting direction. So, and I know Drive will be in good hands because we now have a team around it. We now will be hiring more people for it. So I think it has some direction and some scope. It's not going to die. So, yeah, I hope to see Drive grow. I've put a lot of work into it. I think it has potential. Let's see. I think it will grow over this year.
Yeah, and this new role that you're taking, which is a traineeship basically for leadership, there's no programming there.
So that has some backstory. I actually never wanted to become a programmer. It's around 2020. I think I turned 13. Yeah, I turned 13 in 2020, and that's when people start asking you about what you want to do in life, right? So I think before that I wanted to become a pilot, which is that childish dream, whatever, right? And then around 11th grade, people are like, when I was around 10 or 11, people are like, become serious. What do you want to do? And I didn't know the answer, as most 10-year-olds don't. But this was also when I started getting interested in politics, and it was a bad time to be growing up, frankly. Like in 2020, I think we had riots going on in India. COVID was starting. The US presidential election was held, probably the most tumultuous one ever. And somehow the world felt like a very dark place. It is a dark place. But so that's where my interest was. That's where my interest has been developing for many years. This idea that you somehow want to contribute to making society or whatever a better place, right? And that's not through an indirect effect, but something more immediate, something more obvious. So I've always been more interested in the humanities and policy and things like that, and that's what I've always wanted to do. Programming actually is something I started as a hobby. It's something I wanted to remain as a hobby. I always had this impression that if you joined CS full time, you'd stop enjoying it. An impression that turned out to be untrue. But I never wanted to become a programmer, and the fact that I joined Frappe was just because of a random series of events beyond my control. And now when I'm leaving programming, I'll miss it for sure because it is lovely, it is amazing. It gives my life a lot of meaning. But I'm sure that what I'll be doing next also will be pretty interesting and fascinating. So, and I'll also be much worse at it. Like I think at this point, I have like a decent programming. Like when I wake up one day, I know that I can do, like you spoke about features, right? You tell me a feature, I know I can largely do. It's much less difficult. It's more about the other things, more about how good you are, how you focus on polish, how you focus on building good features. The actual programming is not very difficult anymore for me. But this new role, I don't know anything, right? I'm just, again, stumbling into the darkness. So I think that'll be a lot more exciting because I will make a lot more mistakes and fall down. So I'm definitely not regretting the choice.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Like most people like spend even their early years thinking that, oh, let me find out what I'm good at, and so I can do that on. You're like, I'm going to be worse at this. Let me do that part. And it's a great way to grow. And that's what's most important to, somebody who's like still, wants to study, wants to
Yeah, exactly.
has a very long career ahead of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I think that's something more young people should be focusing on. But that's not the perspective I look at it. For me, it's just like I said, I don't think about whether I'm good at something or whether I can do it. It's more about whether what I want to do. And this is what I want to do in life. I want to improve at communication, at management, at building a business. Well, I don't want to build a business per se, but managing organizations. So this is what I want to do. And I'm probably not very good at it today because I have no training, I have no actual experience behind it. But I want to become good at it. And how do you do that? By this role. So it's more about aligning your current actions with what you want to do in the future, and less about a specific idea of growth.
Yeah, then the amount of like random events that happen, like you said, in your life, I think change. And it's not even like random events, it's called the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
Actually, I don't want to say that. That's
No,
too
we're not going to
cliche.
say that.
Not for a reason, but it happens. It just does. Like, it's so surprising sometimes. If you wouldn't be in a certain room at a certain time, you wouldn't meet a certain person.
Exactly. And so I think this is also the biggest thing you get away. Like when you read autobiographies of traditionally successful people, that is the biggest thing you see how random events are. Like if you have you read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell? It's an amazing book where he talks about how almost everyone who's an outlier in industry, it's not just hard work. It's not the meritocratic ideal that we are sold. There's so much luck involved, but this luck is also not just some divine fate kind of thing. It's actually about putting yourself out. There's a lot of luck that you don't deserve in some sense, like you just get privileged by it. But even beyond that, you need to put in work. You need to make sure that you're there to receive the luck, right? Uh, I'm not being very clear about this, but the way I look at it is like things fall from the sky all the time, but that does not make you lucky. Things are falling from the sky. I mean, from the sky for everyone. It's just that most people don't pick it up. And if they did, I think people could definitely grow.
Yeah, I think then it becomes more about like a larger worldview. People are not okay with not having a set process. So they can't define this. You can't define
You can't.
things like catching the opportunities that come to you because it's so random. So people just fall back into the easy stuff. They're like, yeah, no, this is
That is a
enough.
safe path,
It's
right?
fine.
And that is not wrong either. It's really again about what you want from life. I feel like we shouldn't be judging people who do things just because they're conventional, right? That is actually something. So a lot of the other people I've spoken to who do unconventional things, you might know a couple at the company too. They tend to have this very moral superior. They tend to have this sense of moral superiority that they're somehow better than others because they're doing something unconventional. That's not true. I'm doing something unconventional because I want to. If I want to do the conventional thing tomorrow, I'd go and do it. It's not about being different. It's about just being yourself. So if tomorrow, for example, I wanted to go back to university, I just wanted to have a very normal, safe life, I'd do it. And I think that would be the best thing for me.
Because you wanted to.
Because I wanted,
But
yeah.
nobody, like very few people think it in this sense because then like you're not considering outside perspective, but the outside perspective is the biggest pressure people put.
That is a difficult thing to become free from, but I think that is the most important thing in growing up, right? When you're a child, somehow this idea of destiny, right? But destiny doesn't exist. It's more about other people controlling your pen. I'm not sure if you know this parable. Like in some religions, people consider destiny to be written down. Like God isn't writing the pen, but other people are writing that pen for you, right? Like society, parents, teachers, whatever. And growing up is really about taking control of that pen and writing it yourself. And it's fine if you write badly. What matters is that you're writing it yourself. It might have a terrible ending. You might be a bad writer, but somehow all of that is fine. And this is, I think, there's some dissonance here because I'm sitting here, with an Oxford admit with a good salary at Frappe, and these are the things people are looking at. People aren't really respecting me for what I've done, but the outcomes that have come out of it. So if, for example, I'd failed, if I hadn't gotten to Oxford, or if I'd gotten fired from Frappe, I'd still be the same person. I'd still be doing the same things, and I'd respect myself the same amount. So social respect really comes from this very, I don't want to say unfair, but somehow random angle that isn't fully controlled, and that's why you shouldn't be thirsting for it in some sense, because it's very random. You should be doing your own thing, and regardless of how things work out, even if things go horribly, that's still okay.
It's okay, but it's also very difficult to do.
True.
When you have to pay bills, when you have to.
That is true. From a job aspect, you need to keep your job.
You do have to do things just because.
Yeah,
and that's how they get you. That's how society gets you.
But you also want to keep that as at a minimum of, as minimal as possible, right? Like you have to pay your bills, but you don't need an amazing salary. You don't need a. So that's the thing, right? So people tell me you're in tech, you can continue doing it for more years and you'll make an insane amount of money. I probably would, right? Like, but that's not the point. I don't want to make an insane amount of money. I want to be having fun. So if I go to the humanities, I probably won't make a lot of money, but I'm fine with that because that's what I want to do. And if the day after that I want to do, I don't know, if I want to become an artist, I don't mind. I don't mind if I become like a broke artist who goes mad, a Da Vinci of sorts. I mean, Da Vinci without the genius aspect. I'm terrible at art, but that is what I'm trying to say. People respect success, and a lot of the things people say about me today come from that perspective, that I've somehow become successful. But that is not the perspective I look at it, and that's not the perspective people should be looking at it either. It's more about, are you living your life in a way that you want to live, and it's fine even if you're a failure, even if you fail. Like for most of my life, I was a failure. It's worth bearing that in mind. All of these things are very recent developments, right? Like whatever the leadership position, Oxford, all of that came this year. But last year, April, I was just some crazy kid doing stupid things. So it's worth keeping that in mind.
Like you keep talking about, like, you want more from life. Your larger goal is something else. It's not tech, it's not programming, it's changing the world. So what is the best way you think you can change the world?
That is a very pretentious way to put it. That's a problem. I mean, that's what I say. But
I mean, it's
sounds
true, right? Small
it is
ways,
true.
big ways. Yeah.
That is the problem. I actually don't know what I want to do. So that's what I was talking about when he said earlier, most people my age are figuring shit out. I still am. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'll be doing. But there are some ways specifically, right? I think one major, somehow very jarring aspect of the world is the many ways in which humans are still very unequal, right? So many forms of discrimination, religion, gender, age. Age is, of course, something we face. But so I somehow want to work towards closing that gap. And I think there's so much work to be done there, so much important, meaningful work, right? Because we dismiss these as social problems, but those aren't just social problems. Like these are problems that actually affect individuals, that hold them back and, ruin people's lives. So that is what I want to work in the sector of somehow making the world a more equitable place.
Yeah, so that I can rephrase my question that way. Like, what is your largest cause?
Yeah, exactly. I think right now my largest cause is working towards making the world a more equitable place. But that could change tomorrow, and I'm fine with that. It's more about just making the world a better place, as pretentious as that sounds.
Is this coming from any past lived experiences or anything you've seen, anything you've been through?
No, I think it really comes back to, I think this is like a bad decade to be growing up in general. Bad things keep happening. We had COVID. We have so many wars today. I feel bad for the kids growing up today. You have AI, you have the Iran war, whatever. Somehow the world is a very bleak place. I'm not sure if it was always like this. Maybe you just sheltered as kids, and maybe this is like a teenager aspect or whatever. Things are so bad and people are so normalized to it. And, that is an important part, sadly, of being an adult. You become normalized to how terrible of a place the world is. And I don't want to be normalized to that. I want to somehow retain this childish sense of anger towards injustice, and that is, I think, what I think drives most of my future goals.
Yeah, I mean, we've become incredibly insensitive. Like,
Yep.
even like every time I talk about it with someone, like we're doing now, it's like you stay awake thinking about the war, and then you still go to sleep and watch it.
That is true. That is true.
You scroll past that trailer.
I've definitely been a lot more. I mean, you get insensitized to it, which is awful, which is really awful when you think about it. But yeah, that's what I want to dedicate my life towards. Somehow anything else feels like a distraction. Feels like it's not the main story. The main story is what a terrible place the world is and how you make it better slightly. This slightly cringy way to put it, but in Harry Potter, Dumbledore. Okay, no, we're not going.
No, I love Harry Potter references.
Okay, you love Harry Potter too. Cool. But like he speaks about how evil is an ocean, right? And that is a very naive way to put it. This idea of good versus bad forces. That's not how the real world works, of course. But the fact is, the world is a very complicated place, and things keep happening. And by the nature of entropy, things by default will keep getting worse. And you have to just stand there and not make things better, but just make sure that they don't get more worse, kind of, if that makes sense. So I know that my work is not going to have a lot of impact. I know that I'm probably, like, all of this stuff is at a very meta level, it's meaningless. It's fine. I mean, it's meaningless and you probably won't get anything done. But that's fine with me. It's just like, you have to try, right? Because if you don't try, what's your excuse?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I die, I feel like if I live the life the way I'm planning it out, I'd be satisfied with myself because I gave it my best and, I was doing my thing. But if I was doing something else, I feel like I wouldn't be okay with that. Of course, a lot of this, many people have told me there's a very childish way to look at things. And as I grow up, I'll become addicted to money and power. We'll see. Maybe. They might not be wrong. I hope they're wrong. But we don't know for sure.
No, I hear you, but I don't completely agree. I mean, it's not going to be meaningless because, like, the fact, like, humans are humans because of communities, right?
Yep.
If you're doing something to make the community around you better, that is, I genuinely think is more than enough, because if many people do that, that is enough change.
That is true. But the question is how you get more people to do that, right? And many other times, most social causes fail. Sadly, that is the way life is.
By example.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. But my point is, even if I fail tomorrow, even if even if I, for example, dedicate my whole life to this and nothing changes or things become worse, I should be okay with that. So I'm just prepping myself for that beforehand, if that makes sense. You don't go into this to make change. You go into this because it's important work and someone needs to be doing it.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do.
Exactly, right. So like when you think about it from a political point of view, right, think about the people who worked towards making this country or other countries a better place. And just because one government comes in at some point in whatever countries, right, like there's been a lurch towards the far right throughout the globe. That doesn't invalidate any of the previous work done by governments or people who made their countries a better place, better places, right? So I feel like I shouldn't judge my work by its outcomes. Again, this is the way I approach life in general. But I want to remember that in particular in the context of social work, you want to judge work by the work you put in because it's important even if it doesn't seem important.
Like another way I was exposed to this was I was in Nairobi for Frappe Africa, and I had the founders of ERP Champions, a partner in Uganda, on the podcast. We talked about everything. We talked about business. We talked about everything, and then we came to the point where they were saying that this is a responsibility to make sure that our country's economy grows no matter what we do. So we're just ERP implementers.
Oh.
But we're in the top 8% of the population there, and we know our economy is not that stable. And just for that reason,
Okay.
we have to look at it in a bigger way. We can't just be people who implement software, but since we've chosen to do this, let's do it in a better way. Let's do it open source.
That's actually so nice, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you'd want more people to be. And somehow getting more people to do that itself is something worth aspiring, right? I feel like Frappe is a great company because of the other companies it inspires, and whatever company inspired Frappe to be this way, right? There's this chain reaction when you do good things, so to speak, that propagates and that has like a net positive effect, even if that's not immediately obvious. So, like, if something, for example, happens and these people shut down, they may think that they failed, but it's not actually failure, right? They might have motivated young entrepreneurs in Uganda. You said they might have motivated them to start a business like that. So work is often invisible, but that shouldn't demotivate you. You still do your thing.
Yeah. What motivated them in the first place was this random collection of information called Software for the Third World.
Okay, what does that mean?
So it was just a DVD, a CD, which had things, software ideas, books that somebody, I forgot the name, thought that Africans would need.
Oh,
That's
okay,
it.
okay.
And I don't think many people know about this, but that has inspired, the founders to do what they do. And that's all it took. It's not popular.
Right.
It's nothing, but it's there. Yeah.
Somehow I want to be that person, right? The person who writes that sort of book. I mean, not the book specifically, but this idea that somehow your work, even if it's not immediately obvious how it helps, good work always propagates. It inspires other people. It pushes things forward, even if that's not immediately obvious. And that's always how I respond to people who ask. People say that you go into politics as a good person, you can't get anything done. Maybe I can't get anything done. Maybe I become corrupt. That's a separate topic. But assuming I don't become corrupt and I don't get anything done, that's still not a loss to me. Because you just keep pushing that barrier slightly.
At least you've not made the world a more negative place.
Exactly.
Like that is, I can't believe how low the bar is.
Yeah.
But it is that.
No, it's like, and you keep pushing. So, like, a great example is Hillary Clinton, right? Like, she lost the election, which is very sad, but she still wrapped the glass ceiling, if that makes sense. And that's probably inspired so many millions of people to try better, so many millions of young girls to imagine that they could become the president, right? Like Obama, again. You may say that all his work has been undone by Trump, but that doesn't matter. You still have been pushing the bar higher. And that's what all our jobs are, I feel, as individuals.
Yeah. So I love how we're just going all over the place and talking about everything, which is not a problem at all. But I want to know, like, you think about like opportunity, initiative, purpose very deeply. And is there a time that you remember where the first time you were intentional about this? When did you get activated? Like,
so there was not, I think with most things, it was not like a binary thing where I woke up one day and had like a great realization. Intention. So I was very religious as a kid. I think that plays into my background a lot. I grew up in a very religious family, and I think until like 5th grade, I was maybe slightly later too. I was very religious. In fact, I've memorized the whole Quran. I learned classical Arabic to study the Quran. I was like on track to become a scholar and all back then. So I think that instilled a lot of things. I think, in fact, that is probably the source of a lot of unconventional things I do. I think religion instills not purpose for sure, but it instills a sense of thinking about bigger things, right? Thinking about larger things. It's not just about money and those things. So I think that's how it started. It's more about the idea of God and what you're here, as pretentious as it sounds, what you want to do in life and stuff like that. And of course, religion is bad in some sense because it sells those answers to you, and those are fabricated answers. But when you are a religious, or when you're moving out of religion, you still try to think over these questions, and those questions, I think, somehow lay the foundation of the way you approach life. And it doesn't really matter what your answers are. Answers are, what's important is that you're thinking about them. So that probably is what started it off. Because religion has a very good motivational structure, in the sense that, it has a carrot. It has this whole carrot and stick thing, right? You want to go to heaven, you want to avoid hell, kind of thing. So until fifth grade, that was maybe my motivation. But as you switch out, you don't have that source of motivation anymore. But you still are thinking about the same things, right? You still want to be a good person. In fact, that is my biggest criticism of religion, right? When in religion, when you do something good, you're doing it for an ulterior motive of winning or whatever, right? Like some reward. But that's not actually being good, right? In some sense, it's not being good for the sake of being good. It's not genuine morality. So I think as religion left my life in over sixth and seventh grade, that kind of that was replaced by my own sense of morals, how you want to call them. Very, very fluid morals for sure, very few fluid ideals. But yeah, I think that's where this idea of thinking deeply about all of these questions comes from. And it started like that, and then I'm not very sure. I don't really know the exact answers to these questions. I think it's something to do with, the depth of thought that is inspired by that. And of course, the surrounding consequences. When you reject religion in a very religious family, there are a lot of consequences, right? So that kind of forces you to take more responsibility, be more intentional about how you live, because a lot of things that are granted for other people aren't really true for you anymore. You have to be thinking about, your many things, safety, figuring out life, those things. And I don't have the answers to that, because somehow all the things that have resulted in me being the way I am are not very positive things. I've mostly been driven by negative experiences, negative emotions. I think for the longest time, my desire to win kind of came from, you want to prove this person wrong. You want to make sure that it's an egoistic place. It's not a very healthy emotion, if you will. It's not joy. It's not a desire for something. It's more like revenge or whatever you want to call it. Those are not healthy things. So I'm not sure. I don't have the answers to these.
I mean, one, there's awareness that you were driven by these negative things. And secondly, I'm still reeling about the fact that you put unconventional religion in the same sentence. Because the fact that, like you were saying, religious families do want their children to grow up religious. And you accepting it and then rejecting it. Like, I know how strict religion can be, and I know that when they tell you something, and you're really impressionable as a child, especially first, second,
I was
third
pretty
grade.
young. I was.
You're very impressionable, and to still come out of that and be like, no, I'm going to have my own sense of it.
So I think I definitely was very impressioned upon, if that makes sense, until of course, teenager. Before that, you don't really question things, right? So I think that's how I grew up, very religious. But I'm not sure either why I somehow started questioning these things. Maybe it was, again, because I got very deep into these things. I think if you stay at a shallow level, then you don't really question them, because it seems okay. But once you start getting deeper, and once you really try interacting with these texts, once you start thinking about them, that forces some sort of greater thought. You don't just accept it blindly, right? And that is the thing. You don't actually interact with these texts most of the time, because most people don't care, right? Even if you're religious, unless you're very religious, you don't really spend time thinking about these things. So I'm in this weird place where I'm not religious today because I was very religious in the past. If I'd just been like mildly religious, or if I'd been in a normally religious family, I don't think I'd have been this way.
No, it kind of makes sense, actually, because you've been so into religion to get to the point of absurdity.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, like I was sent to Jain night school. Okay.
Exactly. So you might understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I lost my mind in like 3 days. I was like, what? And I was very, very young. And they're like, women can't speak up. Women should not say a single word. And all, and on those lines, can't believe I'm shaming my own religion here. But
no, I get
the
that.
point is, like, I think that negative part is fine, where you get to that point of absurdity that you're like,
yeah, but somehow questioning those ideas and then getting out of it is a very difficult process. It wasn't very easy for me. And maybe this is because I was younger, but this was like a 4 or 5 year, very grueling process of internal conflict or external conflict too, eventually, when things became more public. But yeah, it was easily, I think, the most impressionable. I mean, it was easily the most influential. It was easily the most influential event of my life, this whole transition out of going very deep into religion and coming out. I think that's really made me. It's affected almost everything, the way I speak, the way I think, the way I approach life. And yeah, I don't regret any of it. So I think, but again, that comes down to this idea of consequentialist reasoning, right? I don't regret any of it because I'm at a good place today. But if I was at a bad place, or if I'm at a bad place tomorrow, will I regret it? I'm not sure. But I think overall, like, I'm happy with the direction of my life. I'm happy with the sort of person I'm growing into. I'm happy with the sort of person I probably will grow into over the next couple of years. And those are the important things, right? Not material questions, and not those other things. Those don't matter as much somehow. So yeah, I'm happy, I think.
Yeah, people want like reasons. Why are these people the way they are? Like,
Exactly.
why are you like this now? Now I know.
Somehow trying to push everything forward at the same time, and you will fail at many things. But year after year, you get better, and that seems to be the journey.
I was literally just going to get to that. Like, we've spoken so much about like success and what it means to you, what will it mean to you in the future, how you've gotten here. But then what does failure mean to you? Like, how seriously do you take it?
So I think I'm slightly used to it now, because many things in life I failed, or many things in life. So most of the time, most of what people consider my successes today, they came from a place of failure, right? Like even Frappe, for example, most people thought I was frankly crazy when I started all of this, when I dropped out of school. And so, I mean, slightly dramatic, but they'd use me as a case study to not be like, they'd be like children, they'll tell their children, they'll be like, don't be like Safwan. But they're like, be like Safwan, which is, again, it's not about them saying it, but it's this idea that failure and success are very transient, right? Like, and they're also very shallow at some level. So I don't really spend, at least I try not to spend too much time thinking about these ideas. I try to just do my thing. If I was being, I know this is cliche, but I just try to have fun. I just try to have like an interesting week. I don't think too much in depth. Like a couple of years ago, I used to make annual plans. Nowadays, I don't even do that. I don't even make weekly plans now. I'm just trying to have like an interesting story that makes sense. In my head, I want to have lived, not even a meaningful, I want to have lived something worth writing a book upon, if that makes sense. And
Nice.
that's how I approach it. Not really external success, not really external opinion.
Yeah, but this is like, this is the way you want to operate about
Exactly.
failure. What about when it
How
actually has happened?
Right, it hurts. It hurts like bitch. I think every time, like, so that when I've gotten rejected from a university or from a camp, the many ways in which you mess things up and things go wrong, it hurts all the time. It still hurts. I'm pretty sure, like, even like a couple months down the line, if things don't work out, like the things that are going on right now, if they don't work out, it'll still hurt a lot. And you'll have a crash in self-esteem. You'll start wondering why. You'll start wondering if you're stupid for doing any of this. You'll start thinking that you should have just gone to school and be a normal kid. All of that is very normal. Yeah, I think those mood swings are okay. I'm hoping I grow out of them eventually. I kind of think this is just like a teenagehood problem, wherein you keep shifting from this insane happiness to this very, very dark states. But yeah, I'm hoping you'll grow out of it, and hopefully you become more normalized to failure, to success too. You don't take anything too seriously. That's how I want to be eventually.
Yeah, I agree. Like, resilience in doubt is the best
Yeah,
and the most
exactly.
necessary kind of resilience you need.
Yeah.
Like, you'll work hard otherwise.
Exactly.
But when you're in doubt, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust the people around you, and you're just like, oh, maybe.
Because
I shouldn't
yeah,
have
in
done
anything, things will go up and they will go down, right? And you somehow should not take any of it too seriously, because none of it is lasting. And this applies to failure, but it also applies to success. I feel like a lot of people, once they start doing well, they kind of assume that things will continue going well. They kind of assume that they've earned it. That's not true. It's again just ups, and things will go down again.
Yeah, there's no law of inertia,
There's
right?
no-
in
exactly,
success,
right,
which is
right.
so stupid because it
Which
exists
is pretty
everybody,
sad, I know,
everywhere
right?
else. Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be, because then you're stuck in failure
Yeah.
for a longer time than you need to be.
Yeah, that is also true. There is a law of inertia there, because that's also entropy, right? Things keep getting worse in general. And also success, the way we have conventionally defined it, it's definitionally exclusive, right? Like if something is common, then people don't respect it by definition. So it also means that very few number of people in a society can attain any form of success, anything you consider. Like even happiness, when you think about it, when people say they want to be happy, what they really mean is they want to be more happy than normal people, right? There's no real objectivity to anything. So any form of success, not just material success, any form of internal success, external success, it's always very exclusive. So when you get it, you likely will lose it. And so you shouldn't focus too much on that, on the destination itself. Again, somehow it feels like we're saying very cliche things, but
Yeah.
you don't focus on the output itself. You focus on getting to it and then losing it and then getting it again. Somehow that journey is exciting, right? It's like politicians. Weird example, but like every 5 years they have to be re-elected to office, and that somehow seems fun. The fact that every 5 years you have to prove yourself, right? Like I wouldn't be a dictator even if I could. I mean, of course, there are many moral reasons not to do, but I'm saying somehow feels fun, that journey of proving yourself and winning and earning something back every once in a while. That is worth having in itself. And I mean, all of this is just philosophy, by the way. In practice,
in
yeah.
practice,
In
it's so
practice,
much more
it's
different.
it's so hard.
Like right now, we have SOP season going on, right? And you and I both know how stressful it gets.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
like we're all talking about success and failure and all of that. And naturally, my algorithm has picked up on it. So my reels are also filled with random success. Every time I open it, I'm just like, I'm not even scrolling that much these days. And then it's just, and then all these really
creepy.
cliched philosophies come
Yeah.
by. You're just one, every time you fail, you're just a failure, closer to success. Cool.
No, yeah, but I somehow disagree with these ideologies because they still frame things in terms of success, right? They think failure is a stepping stone to success, but that's not the point. Success is a stepping stone to failure, if that makes sense. Like everything is a stepping stone to each other, right? Things go up, things go down, and you should. I want to emotionally detach from those outputs and just do the thing, whatever it is, and enjoy that. Like I want to enjoy programming for the sake of programming, right? I might be a good programmer today, I might be worse tomorrow, I might disappoint other people tomorrow, I might also do very well, but somehow that shouldn't matter as much as enjoying the programming itself, like enjoying the craft itself. And again, like you said, all of this is philosophy. In practice is much harder. In practice, when things go well, you think that you earned it. You kind of have like this year has been. I feel very proud of myself this year. Last time, I mean, around this time last year, I felt pretty shit about myself, and that happens. But you still have to like try to emotionally detach yourself from the outcomes and just do your thing.
Yeah, which is very difficult too because the outcomes contain so much more than just like validation.
Exactly.
And validation either way is a huge part of like what
It
we're
is.
doing. Yeah.
It's not just social validation, right? It's also about how you view yourself.
Yeah, internal validation as well. And external validation just helps that.
Exactly, right.
Like you can't get to where you are without believing in yourself, but you need somebody else to believe in you too.
Yeah.
And it's just a vicious cycle.
Right. And when things keep failing, it's, of course, other people will lose trust in you first, but then at some point you also start questioning yourself, right? And that is a hard cycle, and I don't know if I have answers for that. I don't know how I've approached it either. I've just tried to keep it at bay. Many times I think I probably at some points I too would have given into the doubt, right? I can't immediately think of it, but I'm assuming I'd have given up on a couple things. And that's fine too. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing in life. You get this feeling that nothing really matters that much. Whatever happens, things are going to be fine. This chalta hai attitude somehow is what governs my thinking nowadays.
Interesting. I'm just thinking. We're talking about so much philosophical stuff, so much meta stuff, and it's just words.
Yeah, it is.
Like
it really
it's
is.
just words. And
In practice, everything is so messy, man.
do you think we're getting really lost in not just in this conversation on a bigger level? We're just getting so lost in thinking that this is how it's supposed to be. Let's set down the philosophy first and then do the action. But we sometimes never get down to the actions itself. Have you ever faced that? Do you think?
So I think from the beginning I've tried to avoid that. I think a lot of people do face that, but I at least have very consciously tried to avoid that. Like even when I plan, right? It's not just about philosophy. Even when I make out a plan or something, I try not to plan in too much depth. It's more about you actually go and do your thing, right? And even in philosophizing, I can write. So I do write. I write a lot about the ways I've morally deteriorated, the ways I've morally improved, but none of that matters unless I'm actually trying to improve on the ground, right? And you're right. I mean, because so talking about it somehow feels like progress, right? Like the fact that I've come here and we're discussing these things, it feels like we're somehow engaging in something meaningful, but it's not actually anything useful. So yeah, there's some dissonance here. I agree. I still haven't quite gotten used to it in that you talk a lot about how to become better and all, but at the end of the day, like I come here and I talk about success and all, but then there's a bug and drive, right? And then so that dissonance is there. Somehow we keep talking a lot, but the actual aspect of getting better is very slow. It's very messy. It's quite painful.
Yeah, I'm not taking away from the like power of sharing knowledge.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and bouncing off each other's ideas and telling each other that this might be the way to go. But yeah, I think that it's more often than not people. And everybody, this is just a human character flaw. I think they just get lost in the fact that we are talking about it. Like if just talking about it would be enough, then there would be like so much progress on what's happening right now in the war. Yeah.
No, even internally, well, like I'm sure you also write a lot, right? When you journal and when you write a lot, sometimes it's easy to get lost in the writing. You make up elaborate plans. You write. So many of the times I've noticed that you write when you're analyzing yourself, when you're reflecting. I'm writing pretty lines just because they sound pretty, right? And you kind of get so focused in the writing that you're not actually thinking about improvement. You're not actually thinking about your life. I mean, that's a separate problem because we probably like writing. So it's a craft aspect too. But yeah, we shouldn't get lost in the weeds, so to speak.
Yeah. But we both read each other's writing, and I think we both get lost in pretty words.
Definitely,
I think
definitely.
it's like every writer does at one point.
Yeah, I'm fine with it because
Yeah.
so writing is a separate problem because I enjoy writing. You also do.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But yeah, in general, and there's also this performativeness aspect to it, right? When you come out and you say long words and you talk about these deep things, people think you're smart. So there's also that social value to it. But yeah, I mean, which is fine. I don't mind. But at the end of the day, if you're not actually good, if you're not actually improving, none of that actually matters. And people are going to see through it in a while too. You can sound very deep and philosophical, but after a while, they're not going to buy that, right? People may be dumb today.
People are going to look it up. That are they
Exactly,
actually
right,
doing?
exactly,
are they actually
right.
practicing what they preach?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I feel that for a lot of people, I mean, slight rant here, but you know, a lot of these uncles in villages, like you go to a festival and they start talking about success and they start talking about so many things and they give you advice, which is good. I'm sure they're coming from a good place, but again, where is the implementation, right? So I don't want to be that person. So I try at least, I know I philosophize a lot. That's because I like philosophy. I also write a lot because I like writing. But yeah, that is all cool and that is all fun. I do it for the hell of it, but that shouldn't distract from the actual mission of improving physically in life.
I don't think it comes from a place of good intentions.
Be polite.
It comes from a place of power.
I think it also comes from a place of insecurity.
Yeah, insecurity and power. Like,
yeah, for sure.
There is no way people think that, oh, I think it should be this way. I am elder, so it should be this
Yeah,
way.
for
That's
sure, for sure.
that's power.
Yep.
That's basic, logicless.
Yeah, I was just trying
power.
to be polite.
Yeah, and power dynamic. If we get into power dynamics, that's going to be another whole podcast. in
Exactly,
itself.
but what you're saying, right? is you should recognize this, right? You have recognized it, I've recognized it, but to most people, it is somehow sad that power dynamics corrupt so many things, right? To the average teenager, if someone comes up and someone old, or someone worthy of respect comes up and tells these things, they tend to take them seriously, and that might be terrible advice too. So I somehow find that very sad.
It is like the same people who told my dad that he couldn't be a dancer are now like, saying, oh, she's so successful as a poet.
I know, exactly, huh?
Like, come on, have some
they
faith
don't
in
have,
yourself.
No, I know, right? It's so funny how people flip.
Yeah.
I've seen that very dramatically too, because again, for me, it's been a very dramatic rise. And that has a luck aspect to it for sure, but it has a lot of interesting side effects wherein you see people who were very harshly criticizing you or whatever, saying that you wouldn't make it just a couple months ago. Today they're kind of rolling back on their words and praising you, right? It is very funny. I don't know. And I feel like now I'm addicted to it. I like the feeling of I like it when people criticize me and then a couple months or years down the line they have to eat their words. I like that feeling.
Yeah.
It makes me high.
So it's a told you so moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to push it in, but they recognize it themselves, right?
Yeah, but by this thing, we all live on a little bit of power.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's always that ego aspect to it, that power aspect to it, that does motivate all of us.
Till now, we've been sitting in the clouds and talking. Let's just come back and
Yeah, for sure.
a little more to reality. You have reality and your background. You have moved around so much. Like you've had a change in ideas, a change in places, a change in pace of what you're doing, and a little change in from academics to straight into work. Do you ever think that was too much change, and what challenges has it gotten you into?
I mean, yeah, there's that feeling of instability and this feeling that I don't know what the term for it is, but you don't know what's happening and you don't feel like you're in control at all. But I think over the years you just get used to it, and I think that's true. So it's worth getting used to it early rather than later on, right? Like throughout school and throughout academy or whatever in college, you're somehow very much in control of your systems. Right? You study, you're gonna do well in exams, but that's not true in real life. That's not true in jobs. So I think it's useful that I learned this lesson, if you will, earlier rather than later. It was definitely very difficult though. So yeah, I wouldn't downplay that. Many challenges. I don't even know where to start, but yeah, I think that fear of change is one thing. Then there's also the insecurity, right? When you're, like we have spoken about that previously, when you're the youngest in the room, when you're doing unconventional things, it's also very lonely because because people tend to disbelieve in you. I mean, that's a negative connotation, but even without it, there are very few people who are doing what you're doing, right? So that can be very isolating at times. But again, we're philosophizing, one statement. But so these are the disadvantages, but I don't think about those or about the advantages either. Like somehow all of that seems very secondary to me. I just think about whether I want to do something and then I do it. And the advantages are the good parts, the disadvantages are the bad parts, but you deal with all of them and none of them influence my decision that much, I feel.
But that decision influences everything else,
Yeah,
right? Like you
it
took a
does.
decision to start working when you
Yep.
are supposed to study?
Probably ruin my mental health. Not just that, but many of the decisions I've made. But yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah,
I think it's fun. Yeah.
has like net the experience of working at this age been good for you?
So working specifically, first off, it's a very different. It's a very different arena from academia, right? So to give you some background, I was a very smart student, not to blow my own trumpet, but I used to be pretty good, right? Like I'd consistently top. I do very well, and so we're talking about 12, 15 years in which I was the undisputed topper, right, of the class or whatever, and teachers would validate me, people would praise, blah blah blah, all of that stuff, good stuff. But then I come to work, and somehow now I'm not only I'm not only the most inexperienced person in the room, I'm also in many ways bad, right? I mean, by virtue of my lack of experience. So so many mistakes in drive. I mean, you have experienced things yourself. So many mistakes and mistakes that continue to happen, and somehow you're not really not. So I feel like it'd be fine if I was average, but many days you feel like you're well below average, and when you do very stupid things, and that hurts because that's a very rapid transition, right, from being excellent to being something below mediocre. And it was definitely a difficult transition. It continues to be difficult, but you but it's worth it, right? Because again, there's no point in doing something if you know you're going to win. So after a while that also gets boring, like, and then and expectations raise too. So after you do very well in academics, people just expect better, right? People expect even higher. So expectations scale with your growth too. So it's not that that would have been any more easier anyway. Expectations are always going to be there. Disappointment is always going to be there. And the only way to avoid that is by choosing safe paths. And you don't want to do that, right? Because that leads to unfulfilling lives. So yeah, I don't regret any of it. In
Yeah,
fact, I'm
like
very
not-
happy I did all of it. Yeah.
Not like specifically unfulfilling lives, but that's a cost, right? Like we talked about this before. If you're not the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, true.
What's the point if you're not learning? And it's difficult to stay comfortable. It's easy to stay comfortable.
Yeah, that is
actually.
true. That is
yeah,
true.
it's difficult to get out of it. But if you're already on that path,
Mm-hmm.
then these challenges will become redundant eventually.
So the advantage with me is that I'm somewhat stupid in the sense that I don't think about consequences before doing it. So like I just shifted to the job and I didn't think at all about how it would affect me, about any of the consequences. I just kind of jumped into it one night. Pretty much how I approach most things. That's how I went into drive. That's how I'm going to this new role, and I'm pretty sure this will also be pretty insane. But I'm glad I am that way, because if I stop to think about the consequences and how it affect me and all that, that'll probably just hinder my growth, right? And like I said, it comes at the cost of some sanity maybe, but it's a cost I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, you moved all the way to Mumbai,
Yeah.
and you're living alone here.
Right. And that's the thing. And it's been hard, but I didn't think about the fact that it would be hard. Somehow to me, everything is easy in theory. Like before I actually start doing things, I think it's a fair amount of overconfidence, or maybe not considering the problem seriously enough. I'm not sure what it is, but somehow everything seems very easy to me until I actually start doing it. But I'm not trying to fix it because it's benefited me so far. But like I said, at some point in life, I'm pretty sure that's going to come back to bite. But so far, it's been working.
But
out,
it's a
so.
unique enough mindset for you to believe in yourself enough, so it's good.
No, it's not even believing myself. It's just believing that things will work out. That again sounds very philosophical, but it's not like that. Somehow, even if they don't work out, I'm fine with that. That's the thing. I just do things without thinking about the consequences. I think it's not as philosophical or as smart as it sounds. It's pretty stupid.
Yeah, and is that something you learned about yourself only after experiencing this?
Yeah,
or
I
did
think
you-
so.
yeah.
This was all these all thoughts that I just realized over maybe the last quarter of the last year. When like I'm 18 now, so my teenagehood is coming to an end. So I've been thinking about becoming serious, becoming an adult, blah blah blah. So as part of that, you think about the many ways in which you're maybe immature. But again, like this, for example, is something I want to maintain, even if it's immature, even if it's stupid. I think it's beneficial, and I think that's how I want to live.
Yeah, you can do it in like different ways as you grow up. But
Exactly
the
right.
your
Maybe you can be
intention,
slightly
yeah.
safer. Maybe you can be maybe you can do slightly less dangerous things. But again, I'm not sure if that's exciting, right? So I'll figure it out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people ask me things expecting me to have good answers, but it's all just a lot of stupidity and luck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're believing in what you're saying, you can convince enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can convince them enough, and
Right, exactly.
like this applies everywhere. Like suppose when you're bullshitting answers at school, like in your paper, or on a job interview,
Right.
or anything, you can bullshit anywhere, and like eventually you will be like, "Oh, I bullshitted." It
Right,
was
right.
it was in your mind. That's how I rationalize it. Okay, yeah, sometimes the things that come out of my mouth, it's like I've never thought about this before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also by virtue of the fact that you're doing weird things, you also have to learn to bullshit a lot. It's a useful skill.
Yeah.
And hopefully you scale up, like you scale up along with your bullshitting, which is not something I do very well all the time. But yeah, I try to do that. But also, I mean, in most cases, honesty helps, especially somehow, luckily, we are at a company where people largely value honesty, and the community also is like that. The community also is like that, right? Like we value largely authentic dialogue, authentic marketing. So that is lucky. But maybe I mean, not maybe, but earlier in my life when you had to act quite a lot, when you had to lie quite a lot, I think I learned those skills quite well. And I don't, again, those are useful skills. And I feel like, again, like going forward in life, I'll still need them.
Yeah, you have to take a neutral stance on this, even though it sounds negative.
No,
But
yeah, we probably should. I probably should think of a better way to phrase it, but
no, it's all
no,
right.
but in general, I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. No, but since we're talking about honesty, you have had to, be honest about your decisions, all of the decisions from, leaving religion at a young age to start working right now, young age again.
Right.
So how have you justified these decisions, back home or the people who are close to you? And I'm guessing that has, been a challenge for you.
Justifying implies that I convinced them. I did not convince them. So I don't know, man. At some point, I think maybe, I don't remember my exact age, but like I said, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff I've done is driven by negative emotion, and the biggest one is cynicism. You start kind of you kind of expect such a low. I mean, you expect so little out of people that you stop trying to convince. You stop trying to convince them. So yeah, I feel like I've never really justified my decisions to people apart from myself or maybe my very close friends. It's mostly just, if you don't like it, fine. It's like, which is not very healthy too. But yeah, that's how it played out. But if I think about how I would justify it, I think it's basically what we've been philosophizing about in this entire podcast, right? This idea that you want to be writing your life, even if it's bad, even if you fail, that's fine. And I wish that we as a society would be more supportive of that idea instead of living this very cookie cutter kind of life, right? Which is what, unfortunately, most people try to push.
Yeah, it's a difficult place to be in.
It is.
Especially knowing that our parents, if suppose our parents are people that it was also want to protect. They think we don't know enough yet, or they think we're not qualified enough to take our decisions. But I don't think there's an age. I just think there are enough experiences that you have to go through to get to that place.
Yeah, and many other times, I feel like people make wrong decisions, and that's fine. I've made so many wrong decisions, and again, this goes. We're philosophizing too much. We won't go into that. But there's no real right or wrong decision, right? Things just play out, and we judge things based on their consequences. But many other times, right decisions lead to wrong things, and the vice versa, right? So I feel like it's not really about parents, or it's not really about family. And of course, they are coming. In most cases, they are coming with good intentions. But it's really about falling down and playing things out, just living life on your own terms, even if that hurts people, even if that, it is sad, like you said, it is a difficult place to be. You lose people you love, you go through a lot of hard things. But again, like I opened this thing, I really don't know about any other way to live. This is how it's always been for me, and this is how I think it'll continue to be.
Nice. That's I think, good way to end this long discussion. Also, we did oppose a point we made half an hour ago, but I think that's how deep we've gotten into the conversation.
It's been pretty dense.
Yeah. But no, I think this is a good place to call it. To make things much, much lighter. Everybody from the Frappe team who comes on the podcast has their own section of a rapid fire question.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like coffee with Karan, but it's not half as dramatic. No, it's not half as dramatic. I can promise you.
Will you tell me the people who ask those questions too? Later on, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. Best childhood memory.
What a funny question.
To ask an 18-year-old.
Yes. Exactly, right. I love reading. I think that's always been my thing. And my favorite childhood memories is mostly spending hours in the library and not thinking about anything else.
The second question is also relating to that. What's your favorite book?
Oh, damn. No, I can't answer this question.
Like, I know you've read like 500
too
books.
Difficult.
So.
It's pretty much whatever I read most recently. I read The Bell Jar yesterday night. Beautiful read.
First time?
Yeah. Oh, you've read it before? Okay. Yeah, lovely book. Oh, okay, but just free marketing. I love the Hunger Games series. I just, that is somehow part of my life. Like, I talk about Hunger Games. I drop lines from it all the time. So that is probably one of my favorite series.
Movies or books?
Books. Always books.
Yeah. No, the Hunger Games movies are also very popular, right?
Yeah, but The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, amazing book.
Okay, I will check it out.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does money motivate you?
8, which is weird because of all this philosophizing. But money is important. I love money. Money is amazing. But
Nice.
it's just
Yeah.
not the biggest thing. It's definitely one of the maybe second, third biggest thing, because that's how you get things done, right? I mean, it's luxury, comfort, all of that is amazing too. But like if you want to make change, if you want to do anything in the world, you need money. Sadly, not sadly. That is just how things are. So yeah, I love money. 8 or 9 maybe.
Okay. Would you use the age card to get out of a tricky situation?
Yeah.
That one's fair.
But I mean, it depends really. Like you want to have some self-respect, so I probably wouldn't do it at Frappe. I've done it with like, so at TCs, like sometimes you don't have the ticket. Like, dude, it's not my fault. UTS is such a shitty app. But anyway, so you you get caught, and then you start ranting about the Asian. Yeah, I mean, yeah, at times.
How often do you do the dishes?
Not often enough. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mumbai or Bangalore?
Bangalore for sure.
Nice.
No, I'm joking. Mumbai.
Yeah, I was going to disagree, but I was like, this is a rapid
No,
fire,
no,
so
no,
I
no.
won't.
No, I think somebody who wrote that is my friend. It's an internal joke, but no, Mumbai for sure.
Okay. Yes or no, are you happy with where you are right now?
Yep, very.
If you had to choose only one goal, what would it be?
Dude, this sounds like these SOP questions. I can't answer them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, role SOP is about what is your one focus.
I don't know.
I can't have one focus.
I
I'm
don't
too
know exactly,
multitasking.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, no, I think we can call it here only. But I
Those
think
weren't
we've
too
gone from everything. Like we philosophize on almost anything we
Way
can
too much
think about.
philosophy.
And also, which is usually how we talk. But I think we had enough like life stories and examples to bring it all together. I'm so happy that finally we got you on the
Yeah,
podcast and we finally did this shoot. I appreciate you being on the podcast. I'm really happy to have you here. You're one of the people in office I can have, full-blown conversation about anything.
Yeah, I think a conversation like this is what we also discuss pretty much all the time, so it's not very different.
Yeah, it's not very
Yeah.
different. Just these 3 cameras
Yeah.
getting in the way. No, just kidding. But yeah, thank you so
It
much.
was a lot of fun for them. Thanks.
Nice. Cool. And thank you so much for watching the Frappe podcast. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.